Good morning, it is Sunday, December 4th. We're out here putting some more mulch on the ground. I have talked about once we get done raking the fresh fallen leaves off of a fence, we let the wind blow whatever else is left up to that fence and then we just leave it alone. And right here is a great example of leaf mold. And you can see how nice and broken down some of this is. Now you see the leaf mold right down in here? That's happened in just less than a year. I had a viewer write in with the question. They just put leaves on their garden and then tilled it in, and then stumbled across my story. He wanted to know if there was something he could do to fix what he just did. Well, obviously you can't untill a garden, but I don't think all is lost. And this is actually perfect timing. This ties right in with this leaf mold. Well, let me go ahead and get a couple more wheelbarrows full and we'll talk about it. Dark rich fines, that's the mulch right underneath those leaves. That's bringing that life, that's bringing that fertility back into the soil. That's what we're going for. One of the reasons you want to keep your ground cover, here's a great example. Right over here, you can see the color difference from over here, and half an hour ago this was much darker. By keeping your soil covered, it maintains that moisture. This is also a really good example of your garden being covered. When you go to plant in the spring, you just pull those leaves back, right down the soil. See how nice and soft that is? You dig the smallest hole you can, you plant, and you pull those leaves back in. Now you would never peel back your leaves off your garden, but this gives you an opportunity to see what the soil looks like underneath the leaf mold. And this area is predominantly clay. Look how nice that is. Pull the layer of leaves back, this is what you got. It looks like it's ready to plant. The reason I'm not planting out here, we're in underneath all these trees. And they still have enough leaves on them, this is gonna get covered up. And I won't touch this area again until late next year. Now, I can't believe I've got this almost filled up with leaves. The walkway's open still. If you remember here in the summer, we put down a whole bunch of hay. Right back there, let me show you what we got going on now. Now right in here, we had some squash planted this year, and it got kind of thin. And I came out and put a bag of Riley hair that we'd vacuumed up, some shredded paper, a bunch of hay. I think I even put some sawdust down, and we're down to just a bare minimum of sawdust left. That's how quickly this breaks down. Even though you tilled your leaves in, you still have all winter for those to break down. The biggest problem with tilling in is you disturb and or kill all that life that you got going in your garden. That's the whole principle behind no-till, is you don't disturb the life in the soil. And the life in the soil is what feeds your plants. It's not the leaves, it's not the fertilizer. There is one other problem with tilling the garden. It creates a compaction layer just underneath the tines. Over time, the plants will break through that, but right now, this first year, you may not have the results you're looking for. If you have any other source of leaves or hay or anything, I would go ahead and just cover the garden and just let it sit until you're ready to plant in the spring. And then, like always, you just pull that mulch back until you get to the soil and then plant. The leaves may bind up some of the nutrients, but the biggest thing is to get those roots going in the spring and get that life going again. The goal of the deep mulch, no-till, organic, soil food web type gardening is just to keep the ground covered. Whether you got a cover crop, whether you got leaves, whether you got grass, whether you got hay, whether you got straw, anything organic. The more you cover the soil, the better the life's gonna do in the soil, the better the life, the better your plants are gonna do. You really don't wanna till it up. You create a compaction layer, you kill the life in the soil, you bind up some of the nitrogen. Now, if you've already tilled it in, don't get discouraged. This is not an overnight thing. It will correct itself. You can put another layer right on top and just leave it alone till spring. You ought to be just fine. This is coming on my 5th summer doing this deep mulch. And I guarantee you that first year, I didn't know what I was doing. But I had a little better harvest than I'd had without the deep mulch. And I had no weeds. So that kept me going. And right now, I'm 100% deep mulch. And if you want to make a small change, change the way you do things. If you want to make a big change, change the way you see things. Today we inoculated the garden, the light being produced in the leaf mold. We just transferred that into the garden. Mike, I hope that answered your question. And I sure hope you'd share on the Saturday episode how it's working out for you. We'd all love to see how you're doing in your garden. Hey, buddy. Oh, good boy. Oh, good boy. What are you doing? Oh, good boy. Oh, good boy. Yes, I know. It's all deep mulch. It's all deep mulch. And remember, until next time, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and God bless you. Where'd you go? Running around the garden's thirsty work. Come on, let's plant.
Let's go plant garden.